what's the big idea?
I was told it was okay if I painted rocks here.
Oh, yeah, that's totally fine. I'm just wondering, what's today's big idea?
Oh, well, funny you should ask, because I was just painting it on these rocks.
Oh, God is in control. Cool. But why are you painting it on rocks?
Well, beside it just being good old-fashioned fun, when I see rocks, they remind me of today's big idea. God is in control. And I really love when something in nature helps me remember something true about God.
Now we're getting somewhere. But why do rocks remind you that God is in control?
I think that's gonna be a little easier with a location change. Do you know the 3 claps trick?
No. What's the 3 claps trick? How does it work?
Just clap 3 times.
Just clap 3 times?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Wow, it worked!
Nice job.
So where are we?
Well, we're at a rock climbing gym. It's a place people come to practice climbing and bouldering and what are you doing?
Well, I thought there was gonna be a new word alert for bouldering.
Oh, well, maybe there should have been. Maybe. Bouldering is just a way that climbers practice their skills lower to the ground with a mat and without a rope. But that's not what I brought you here to see. I brought you here to meet Katie.
Hi,
Katie.
nice to meet you.
Katie's an expert rock climber, and she could probably climb anything in this place. In fact, I bet you could do it pretty fast. Do you think you could climb one of these walls in 10 seconds or less?
I don't know, that feels pretty fast to me, but I could try.
Yes, let's do it.
Wow, that was so cool!
And maybe even cooler is she's not just a climber, she's also a belayer.
Oh! Really? No new word alert for that one either?
Okay, fine, let's have it.
New word alert, new word alert, new word alert, new word alert.
Okay, that's enough. Let me tell you what a belayer does.
I'm all ears.
Katie just scaled this wall using a contraption called an auto belay.
New word alert.
Don't dance. And when she uses that auto belay, it makes sure that the rope above her stays tight, so if she falls back, the rope catches her. That means instead of falling to the floor, she'd just fall a couple inches and then she'd be totally safe.
Cool.
But most of the time, Katie doesn't climb with an auto belay. She still climbs with ropes, but instead of a machine, there's a person at the bottom who's in control of the ropes, and that is the belayer.
So the belayer is at the bottom, watching every move the climber makes, and they're in control of making sure the climber stays safe?
Yes, precisely. If the climber looks like they're about to fall, the belayer can catch him with the rope. Or if the climber gets tired and needs to take a rest for a minute, the belayer can hold the rope so they can catch their breath. Or if the climber needs to come back down, the belayer can loosen the ropes to lower the climber down.
I think I understand why all this reminds you of God. Part of God's character, or what makes God God, is that He's always in control. So even when it feels like we're facing something big, maybe even like a giant rock wall, we can trust that God has got us.
Yes.
Life can feel a little like climbing a wall.
Tell me more.
Well, we all face things that can seem scary or difficult, or things that seem insurmountable, like you'll never figure them out. It can feel like a big old giant rock wall right in front of you, and you can only see what's right in front of you. But if you're the belayer, you can see the whole wall. You can see all the possible routes, how far the climber has to go, and all the different ways that they could get to the top.
And that's why rock climbing reminds me of God. We only see what's right in front of us, but God sees everything, and God is always in control.
And you know, there's a guy named Elijah who faced some pretty big walls too. You can read his story in the book of 1 Kings in the Bible, and you can watch this.
God's story, Elijah. So part of God's story is about a guy named Elijah, and it goes like this. Elijah's job was to talk to God and tell God's special family, the Israelites, what God said. So he was called a prophet. Unfortunately, the rulers of Israel were King Ahab and his wife Jezebel. They were the most wicked leaders Israel had ever had, and they didn't care what God had to say. They made Elijah's job really hard, but just wait until you see what God did for him. See, Ahab and Jezebel worshipped Baal instead of God. Baal was a false god, an idol. Kids, an idol is anything that gets the attention we should be giving God. Money, stuff, or even people can be idols. And when Ahab and Jezebel worshiped Baal, they turned a lot of God's family away from God too. But here's the thing, God wants all of our worship and love, and he totally deserves it. So God sent Elijah to tell Ahab and Jezebel that it wasn't going to rain for a while. There wouldn't even be dew. That means crops wouldn't grow. So the Israelites would run out of food. Then they would think Baal was angry, and they'd blame Ahab. When the king heard Elijah's message, he was furious. He wanted to kill Elijah. So God told Elijah to go hide in the wilderness. And just like he had said, there was no rain. In fact, for 3 more years, it was dry. But Ahab and Jezebel kept right on worshiping Baal and asking him for rain. Of course, that didn't work. So they stayed mad at Elijah too. They actually killed as many of God's prophets as they could find. But all that time, God kept Elijah safe. And Elijah kept telling people to believe in the real God. A few did, like a widow who saw God do miracles through Elijah. But most kept worshiping Baal with Ahab and Jezebel. Finally, in the 3rd year of drought, God told Elijah to go talk to Ahab again. This time, Elijah challenged the king to a contest that would show who was real, Baal or God. Ahab brought 450 prophets of Baal to meet Elijah at a place called Mount Carmel. They built an altar to worship Baal, and Elijah built an altar to worship God. They both prayed for fire and then waited to see whose God brought it first. And since Baal was a false god, you can probably guess who won. Yep, God. In fact, he sent so much fire, it burned up Elijah's altar and everything around it. After that, Elijah prayed for rain, and God sent it. It seems like maybe Ahab and Jezebel would follow God after that, right? But they only got more angry. Jezebel sent Elijah a message that she was going to kill him, so Elijah ran away again. This time because he was scared. Even though God had kept him safe for years, he wanted to quit being a prophet. He didn't think anybody listened to him anyway. He laid under a tree and said, "I've had enough, Lord." Then he went to sleep. God must have understood how Elijah felt, because guess what he did? First, he sent an angel to cook Elijah some bread. Then God let Elijah see him. Elijah had talked to God a lot, but he'd never seen him. While Elijah was waiting for God, he saw a windstorm, then an earthquake, then a fire pass him by. But God wasn't in any of those. Then he heard a gentle whisper. There was God. Elijah had spent his life obeying God, even though people wanted to kill him for it. But guess what? Ahab and Jezebel never could kill Elijah. Actually, Elijah didn't die, not even of old age. Instead, God sent a chariot of fire, and Elijah rode it right up to heaven. We don't know exactly how that happened, but it did. God didn't make Elijah's job easier, but he did take care of him. And in the end, Elijah got to be with his God, the real God, in heaven. And that's the story of Elijah. So in case you missed it, here's the quick version. Elijah was a prophet. Ahab and Jezebel worshipped idols. Elijah gave them messages from God. They got mad. God told Elijah to run away. Elijah proved God is real. Jezebel got mad. Elijah ran away. He wanted to quit. God was gentle with him. Ahab and Jezebel couldn't kill Elijah. God took Elijah to heaven in a chariot of fire. And that's part of God's story.
So Elijah faced some pretty big walls.
He wanted to share what God was saying, but people didn't want to hear it.
They were so mad at what Elijah was saying that they tried to kill him.
He had to run away and live in the wilderness.
It didn't rain there for 3 years.
Without rain, Elijah ran out of food.
But even though Elijah faced a lot of trouble, and it seemed like things were out of his control, he knew that he could trust God.
Because God is always in control.
And he showed that by taking care of Elijah in the wilderness.
And he shows it by taking care of us, too.
We're gonna take a quick break. But when we come back, we'll try to find some ways to remember that God is in control. Welcome back, Kids Club. We've been talking all about how God is in control.
We also talked a little bit about how sometimes it feels like we're faced with a wall, something difficult or scary or overwhelming.
Maybe there's a wall you feel like you're climbing. Not a rock wall like these, but something that feels really big and you don't know what your next move should be. Sometimes it helps me just to say the truth out loud, like this. God is in control.
Huh, me too. I may not know how God will help me, but even if I can't see it, I know it's true and I trust that God will take care of me. So I say, God is in control. Now you try it, Kids Club. God is in control.
So to give us a chance to practice this, Chris and I are going to share examples of some things that might feel like a wall, and you'll say,
God is in control.
Let's try it. You're starting a new school and you're not sure how you'll make new friends.
God is in control. Someone you know is really sick and you don't know if or when things will get better.
God is in control. Some of the grown-ups in your life are arguing and it makes you nervous.
God is in control. There's someone in your life who is just kind of mean to you and you don't like being around them, but you're not sure how to handle it. God is in control.
Now maybe there's something going on in your life that feels like a wall and we didn't mention it. And for all those examples, we say, God is in control.
Great job, Kids Club. When we believe God is in control, we trust Him and trust that He will take care of us. We can let Him do the hard work of being in control.
That's right. And Chris, I actually have something special just for you to help you remember this. Do you know the...
The two claps trick? Sure do.
The two claps trick just turns all the lights off. You meant to do the three claps trick. That's better. As I was saying, I have a little something to help you remember today's big idea.
Ooh, what is it?
It's this.
Oh, God is in control. Wow, thanks. I'm gonna put this somewhere where I'll see it all the time.
Kids Club, maybe you could paint your own rock to help you remember that God is in control and you can trust Him.
Whether you're climbing a giant wall or just taking a tiny step, you can trust God.
And it doesn't mean things will always be simple or easy, but you can always trust God.
Because, say it with me,
God is in control.